Hello everyone, welcome. I am going to be making this raw curried sweet potato noodles. It's an amazing dish that I found online, so I wanted to share the love because this dish is amazing. So the key is really in the sauce. So in the sauce we're going to be using, well, first you can see I've spiralized some sweet potatoes here. So it does help if you have a spiralizer. You can buy these pretty cheaply online or at a Bed Bath & Beyond. I have one of the ones that you crank, but they even have the handheld ones, like I think they're called Vegettis, and those will work also. Or you can even buy these in the store already spiralized. However, you're going to pay a lot more money to buy them this way. It's better to invest in a spiralizer because you can use it over and over, and it's a great investment. So in the sauce, I'm going to be using green onions. I'm going to be using cilantro, chopped cilantro. I'm going to be using, this is grated ginger. I also have grated, or you can mince, some garlic. And because I like things a little bit spicy, I have 2 Thai chili peppers that are finely cut up. We are also, the heart of the sauce is going to be melted coconut oil. You could use olive oil if you prefer. I have that on the stove because I melted it. I have raw almond butter, and curry powder is going to be the star as far as the spices go, but we're also going to use a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cumin. The apple cider vinegar is going to give it a nice kind of acidity to it. And the liquid aminos, you could use tamari or soy sauce, whatever you prefer, is going to give it its saltiness. And I just have a little black pepper, which I use as a garnish. There are also, in the noodles, we're going to have some chopped nuts. Now I have cashews, but you can use whatever kind of nuts you want. And currants, which is going to add a nice little sweetness that is going to really blend very well with the acidity of the apple cider vinegar and the curry itself. So lots of wonderful flavors in this particular dish, and they come together so nicely. So I just wanted to share the ingredients with you. I will put the exact amounts if you're interested in making this on your own, which I highly recommend because it's so delicious and it's raw. So the nutrients of the potatoes and all the ingredients are kept intact. None of the enzymes are being killed due to cooking. And I think you will really love this dish. It gets better as it sits in the sauce. So the second day is even more delicious. What I would do if you're eating it as leftover, because this actually makes quite a lot. If you use 2 medium sweet potatoes, I use 1 big one. This is just 1 big sweet potato, and look at how much noodles it makes. So what you want to do is let it sit out for a little bit, because the coconut oil, when it gets cool, it will solidify again. So by leaving it out for a little bit before you eat it, it'll make it nice and creamy. Okay, so I'm going to get started with making the sauce. Stay tuned. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the sauce. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add my coconut oil, which I've melted on the stove. This is about 1/3 of a cup of coconut oil. So we're going to add that. Make sure I get as much of it as possible out of the pan. Wonderful. The next thing we're going to add is the almond butter. And this is going to give it its nice creaminess. Tastes really good. So if you prefer, I think this is going to be much healthier than adding peanut butter, but if you like peanut butter, you can experiment with that as well. Awesome. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and add our liquids. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of ACV. I'm also going to use 2 tablespoons of my liquid aminos. Now again, you could use soy sauce, tamari, or even coconut aminos. Whatever suits your fancy. We're going to add lots of curry, okay? So the noodles will absorb the curry, so don't be alarmed at how much curry I'm putting in here. It's going to be really good. Now, if you're not a fan of curry, you probably wouldn't want to make this dish. So I'm going to add 5 teaspoons. That was a generous teaspoon. 3. 4, another generous teaspoon. I'll put a little less in this one. 5. Awesome sauce. Just gonna rinse that off. Then we're gonna add cinnamon. So we're gonna do about half a teaspoon to a whole teaspoon of cinnamon. Just depends on how much you like it. For the cumin, now cumin is really strong. It doesn't take a lot, has a strong bite to it. So we want to use about 1/4 a teaspoon of cumin, unless you wanted to add more. So you can play around with the amounts and make it your own. All right, next I'm going to add a teaspoon of the ground ginger. And then I'm going to add the garlic. I used 2 cloves of garlic and my chili peppers, which there were 2 of those. And then I'm going to go ahead and whisk this all together. As you can see, it makes a really rich, thick sauce. So I just want to make sure that all of those ingredients are blended. Smells so good. So what you get is kind of like a golden, really rich golden looking paste. So I want to make sure that that is as blended as possible. You could put this in a blender if you would like to blend it that way, but I like to do it by hand because I kind of like the texture of the garlic and the ginger with the noodles. It adds a little something. Now you could actually add the cilantro and the green onions to the sauce, mix it up and pour it over. I actually prefer just to add it into my sweet potatoes itself. So I'm just going to throw all of that in there. There we go. So now that that's nice and blended, we're going to top this over the noodles. Make sure to get it all out of there. So now we have our sauce. I'm going to go ahead and add about 1/2 cup of the currants, or currants, however you say it. And then I'm going to break up these cashews just a little bit. I didn't do that yet, but you want to add the nuts, chopped nuts. Again, about 1/2 cup. You could add more depending on how much noodles you make. But I found for me 1/2 cup is fine. So I'm just going to add these, break them all up. Helps if you do this part beforehand. And what the nuts do is it adds a nice variance of texture to the noodles. So it gives it some crunch, which is really nice. You'll appreciate how all of these flavors and textures come together, especially as it sits for a little bit, but it'll be delicious right away. So that's good on my nuts. And then you're just going to stir it all together. Isn't that pretty? So just toss it. I like to use tongs. Sometimes I'll even use my hands, but for the purpose of the video, I'm going to use the tongs. But it's nothing like mixing things with your hands. You get to put your energy in it. Of course, you want to make sure your hands are clean. So we're just going to continue to toss that until all of the noodles are absorbed. Everything is mixed beautifully. You may have to work it a little bit. But when I tell you these noodles are so good, the smells that are coming out of this bowl are amazing. So yeah, you're going to continue to stir it up. And you want to make sure you're coating it very well. Sorry, I think I'm coming off the center of the screen here. Once the noodles start to absorb, especially the acidity of the apple cider vinegar and the liquid aminos, you can see how it kind of cooks down. So those are actually working to cook the noodles, but without cooking the noodles, if that makes sense. So the power is in the sauce. You could use that sauce recipe for other noodle dishes, cooked if you like, but I invite you to experience it raw. It's very magical. All right, guys, I am just going to go ahead and give it a taste. This never gets old. Oh my God. You can't see my face. Probably a good thing, but it is so delicious. Thank you for watching. I'll have the ingredients down below. Try it. You'll love it. It's delicious. Bye for now.